Aaron Murtagh, how's it going?
Great. Very happy to be here.
Great. Can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, where you live now, and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Aaron Murtagh. I'm a filmmaker. I split my time really between Montana and Brooklyn. I'm based in Brooklyn right now. I also work in production as a producer, line producer, AD, and my short Man Baby that's kind of finishing up its festival circuit right now it is like my latest project as a filmmaker that I'm now developing into my first feature.
Oh, great! I didn't know you were making a feature out of it. That's awesome. So where your film Man Baby, where did it premiere? Do you have like the world premiere?
The world premiere was with Dances with Films in New York.
Okay.
December 23 now.
Mm-hmm. What was your experience like with Dances with Films? They were really communicative with me when I submitted there too. So I was happy to see your film got in. So yeah, what was your experience with Dances with Films?
I mean, for me, it was amazing. We shot the film in Montana, but then I had come to New York and kind of over a year finished the edit, and I submitted. Was kind of submitting all over the place, but
mm-hmm.
It was just very lucky. I thought that I was in New York at the time. They're doing this like LA, New York. They do these two festivals, so
mm-hmm.
I was really lucky that I could like be there in the city. The film screened in the Regal Square in Union, the Regal in Union Square.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Like a real movie theater. It was amazing. It was such a nice screening experience, especially like to see it in a packed theater with, in my opinion, the block also that I played in was really great. There was just in the company of some really interesting shorts, and it felt like just tons of energy to like start out the festival run.
Yeah. Did you have a Montana premiere?
Yeah. Then almost a year later, that next fall, we played in, there's a festival in Billings called the Montana International Film Festival. Mm-hmm. And then we played in Missoula that like a month later at the Montana Film Festival. And we just screened again in Livingston, this little theater called the Empire in September.
Oh, very cool. I haven't been to Mint. I'm actually from Missoula though. So I've been to, it's at the Roxy, right? Is the Montana?
Yeah.
So what was your experience like with the Montana Film Festival and with Mint, the Montana International?
Well, it's so much more cool to go screen it in Montana where like the whole crew and cast are, so that people who worked on the movie can see it. To me, at least, that like meant a lot. It was really cool to screen it here in New York and do the world premiere like that, but kind of felt far away from a lot of the people that I wanted to celebrate that with. When it played in Missoula, I couldn't be there. I was in a play in Bozeman, so I was like, I just couldn't be there that weekend, and it was screening, of course, at night when I was on stage. So I missed it, but I've been to the Montana Film Festival before. I screened another short there like 5 years earlier. And I think that festival is just so intimate and dreamy. And the Roxy is such a kind of quirky, but really like warm venue. And I felt like they did a lot of work to make sure that there were events where everybody was trying to meet. The social part of the film festival, I think, can be really hard to get a lot of artists to like come together and say hi and talk and kind of get to know each other. But it's really invaluable. Dances with Films also did a great job. I mean, we were in New York, so there was just kind of, I feel like I was out for 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what fest was in Livingston, or was that like a private screening?
That was, it was kind of concurrent with they did their first Fringe festival in Livingston this year. And this guy named Dalton Brink put together what he called a bring your own art showcase. And part of that was, they were kind of different. There was a music night. There was kind of a more, 2D, like painting, drawing show. And there was a screening as part of it. So
that sounds cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes.
So you're an actor. You acted in this film, right? But it sounds like you're also a stage actor. What are some of your favorite plays to act in, if you have any that stick out?
Well, the play I was doing last fall was called Arcadia. It's, I didn't know anything about it. I'm not very well trained as an actor, and I don't have a very big vocabulary in theater. I didn't study it kind of outside of just general, maybe high school reading Shakespeare. But for me, I think also because I'm not trained as an actor, working in theater is so collaborative, and the rehearsal process allows so much time for you to figure out how you're, like, what you're doing in terms of the performance, that it's been somewhere that I feel more comfortable working as an actor. Whereas sometimes in film acting, it's way more intimidating to me because you're just always like under the gun in terms of the time and hitting certain things, or having just a lot of control over your instrument, which I don't feel like I do.
Yeah. So you prefer stage acting then over film, or is it just a little more stressful with film because you don't get to maybe rehearse as much?
I think it just is, it's more intimidating to me, but I just did a werewolf movie in Montana.
Yeah. What?
And it was really, really cool experience for me because I only shot like 4 days in the whole movie. I was there at the very beginning and the end, but the one day was this huge drone shot where I was like in the middle of this town square, like yelling and being really loud, which is not my comfort zone, while the drone kind of circled and then came in for this crazy close-up. Was it just like an amazing, elaborate shot that was so exciting to try and time it and do it over and over again and land it. And then the last days is when my character gets killed by a prostitute werewolf. And so I got to do kind of like some like stunt adjacent work and die and get attacked. And those two things are so outside of kind of the way you work on stage. And that was a really amazing, positive experience for me as an actor. Now I feel like after doing that, maybe I'm just like a little bit more confident about working on set. I figured a couple things out for myself, how to be prepared.
Yeah. I want to see this. What's the werewolf movie called?
It's called High Moon.
High Moon. Cool.
But I mean, they just wrapped. I don't know if the title will change or when we will see it.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, that'll be, I'm excited to see that if they end up submitting, because that sounds fantastic. So, I'll pivot back to Man Baby a little bit here. So for listeners who haven't seen it yet, what is Man Baby about?
Man Baby is about a new dad who turns into a baby. It's kind of like a eerie comedy, I guess. There's a very interesting phenomenon when I started screening, going to the festivals. The audience reaction in a theater like that, like at a festival, kind of it plays to so much laughter. The audience really laugh throughout the film. I think that sometimes that's just an indicator of how uncomfortable the audience is. It's not necessarily that it's like really funny.
Right.
But
yeah, there are some parts in there that it's like I could see that making an audience a little uncomfortable, which is fun to probably watch in a theater.
yeah, I didn't really know that we were going to exercise that, like that skill set. I thought that I really wanted to make a scary genre short was my intention always. I love a scary movie. But I think that in the end, the movie kind of came together with this really specific tone that's very cool and is hard to really kind of put into words, but it's a big part of like, I think what makes the short successful.
Yeah. And it's funny how you can go in trying to make a movie and then maybe the tone just shifts like halfway through. Like I heard Scorsese talking about that too, where it's just like the movie's out of my hands now, where the movie almost takes over and creates its own tone. Is that kind of what happened with your film, or did you have that kind of tone in mind when you started to shoot it?
Yeah, I don't think I really understood tone like before making the movie. I wouldn't really have known how to like talk about it. But the shooting of the movie was like so fun because it was me and this group of people that I work with in Montana all the time. And it was so cozy. Like it was like we got together kind of at this house for 2 days and shot. And so the tone on set was so chummy. And I think I was the only one on set trying to be like, wait, is this scary? Because everybody else just thought they were having a great time. And then in the edit process, at first, because I'm in it and I was trying to edit it for a while, I just wanted to cut myself out of the movie, but he's in every scene. Yeah. It was really hard. And I think getting over kind of that challenge, figuring out how to just see the footage really objectively, also helped reveal that there is something so absurd about the story and so fantastic about it that it is kind of appropriate to laugh, even if you, as the audience, are buying what's going on or you're feeling worried or scared for this guy. It's a satire, you know, it's very much a joke kind of that he's so fragile and scared of losing these attributes of his physicality that are so important to him.
That's interesting. So, well, I want to talk a little bit about starring in your own film. I had a short that I ended up putting on ice because I starred in it, and it was very difficult to watch. And I have very little acting background myself. Like I acted in a couple high school plays, and then I did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers at the community theater. And then I was like, I'll just direct and star in this short film. And it's really hard to edit, especially like I feel like the performance is terrible, and everyone's like, no, you're just being hard on yourself. And it's like, I never know who to listen to. Like, cause I'm pretty sure I know, like there were some parts where it's like, oh, okay, I pulled off that line, but I'm pretty sure I knew when I was being bad, like a bad actor. So how did you get over, starring in your own film and how were you able to kind of edit through that?
The key for me was to have somebody else edit.
Oh, nice.
You know, just put that. I still had to watch cuts and think about it all the time. And I still went to, you know, still have gone to the screenings and sat through it. But having an editor who, the woman I worked with is a friend of mine from school. Her name's Becky Scon-Cohen, and she has just got such a great sense of humor and sense of storytelling. And so for her the magic of working with her as the editor was that she could just look at all the footage and say, this is where there's like a story to put this stuff together. And then once I was focused on the edit in terms of the storytelling and not totally consumed with like, why did I put my hand there or whatever, who cast this guy? Then it was like, okay, some of the things that I'm doing as an actor on set, I can now on this side of it, see a value or see in an objective way, oh, we don't need that, or that's not going to help us make the scene more interesting or move the story forward. That was like a really amazing thing in the edit. To me, if I do that again, the challenge is being able to do that on set. That was the biggest, I think that was the hardest thing for me, was the director in me wanting to look at playback or see the frame or see, what we're shooting, and that actor on set kind of needing really to go away and be in the scene. I admire the filmmakers who are doing that really well. Like Lena Dunham, I just don't understand how she can when she could go back and forth between those two parts of her work. Or also like Bradley Cooper, who I'm maybe not the biggest fan of but insane kind of how much his performance is there, and that he's like, kind of the whole creative voice of the movie. I'm thinking of Maestro specifically.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't think I've seen that one though. But yeah, there's one thing when I was acting in my own film. I kept looking at the monitor. So that's a little hack. Don't let the actors see the monitor, probably, because I kept like trying to check the DP's framing and everything, and I was just totally distracted trying to just like look at the monitor. So a question about Man Baby. What sparked the idea? What kind of made you want to write this story?
It's a great question. I have a kid, but the movie kind of came together before my wife was pregnant. It's weirdly, maybe just was, it kind of came, the idea kind of came together, and then we were pregnant, and then we had a baby, and then I made the movie. So the two kind of they did live together like in a parallel way. But one thing that I was trying to do when I came up with the storyline was write something for myself. Because for me as an actor at that time, I was being told that I wasn't totally like young enough to play a new young guy. And I didn't look old enough to play like a leading, like middle-aged, or like a leading guy, like in why there are these two categories, I don't know. But in the casting world, they're kind of, that's a factor. And so I wanted to use my skill set that I'm trained as a filmmaker and cast myself in something that I thought was more interesting, especially than like, going out for a lot of commercial tapes is pretty weird acting job. And I love physical performance, and I love a scary movie. And I find kind of that body horror space really effective to me. And I'm the last thing I'll say about it is like, I'm pretty vain, but I think it's like a very funny quality. So I think all those things kind of came together in terms of like, how do I see myself? What would I want to do with myself as an actor? This guy kind of, and his body, that relationship falling apart is kind of where it started.
Yeah. So when I watched it, I kind of thought about Eraserhead, and that was kind of like David Lynch's angst, you could say, about having a new kid. So yeah, why do you think you wrote the story before you had a kid? Were you feeling angsty about the possibility of having a kid, or what? And what was that? You keep bringing up losing kind of that connection to like the physical characteristics in his body. What can you kind of hash that out there and explain that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, you can cut this stuff out, but I'll just lay it all out there for you. I always wanted to have tons of kids. When I was like a 20-year-old guy, I was just like kind of like waiting to meet somebody, and like I thought I was just going to have a bunch of kids. So I've always been thinking about being a dad, I think. But it was very, very like far away and kind of romanticized for most of my adult life. And then as I got older into my 30s, I think, and I started feeling like, oh, I don't need to like stay out until 4 a.m. or, oh, I feel like shit today, or I'm really tired, or like those kinds of things. I think it made me worried about, oh, maybe now I'm going to have kids and I'm going to be like tired dad. And also for me, I mean, just the experience of getting older, which really I'm not even necessarily that. I mean, I'm still like young, but it like haunted me. When late in my 20s, I remember like I got a really bad hangover one day, and I just was like, it's over. This is the end. And it felt so real to me. And at the same time, what a ridiculous headspace to be in. It seemed so funny. And I think that it kind of like it kind of like tickles me that my relationship with getting older, or like just obsessing over how I feel in my body. I don't know. It kind of just really made its way into the script in terms of like, what story really am I trying to tell? What do I want to do with filmmaking?
Mm-hmm. I can see that in there. Well, I can move on to something a little less heavy, but I was curious about that, and I really appreciate you opening up about it, and I really connect with you about it. Before we move on, I did want to ask you, you said you love horror movies. Is there a particular horror film that gave you that love for horror, or a particular event that gave you that love for horror?
I mean, when I was a kid, I remember seeing part of Night of the Living Dead.
Mm.
And I was like young, like probably like 7 or 8, and just terrified, like ran out of the room screaming.
Right. Yeah.
And then I remember there's this movie called Darby O'Gill.
Oh, I love Darby O'Gill. Yes.
You know this movie.
I have it on VHS because I'm a hipster, I guess.
Oh, okay. So it's an older movie, right? My dad remembered it from when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And it was like playing on TV, but it was like on late at night. Mm-hmm. And my dad like was excited about it, or remembered this movie and was telling me about it. And so I asked him to wake me up for the now I can't remember even what the scene is, but
the scary scene.
There's a scary part, right?
Yeah, at the end, it's the Banshee, and she shows up at the door. Oh my God, I was so scared as a kid. But yeah, that's the part that scared me anyway.
So I think my dad was like, this scared me as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you got to wake me up, Dad. I want to see it. And something just about that, my dad was willing to like do that. And that really kind of stuck with me, and it just excited me. I mean, I'm so scared of everything in terms of like real life. Like I'm scared of downhill skiing. I don't go on roller coasters, like, but in a movie, for some reason, it really just is exciting more. And yeah, those are like weird little memories I have that were very formative for me in terms of like when like the idea of like a scary movie or like a horror movie had all this cachet to me. It was kind of like forbidden. And my parents also were big Hitchcock fans. So like when we were trying to pick out a movie, like as a family that everybody could watch, for some reason, they would put on they would rent us like a Hitchcock movie. And I loved The Birds. I loved that movie.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I had a very similar upbringing, and I guess these boomer parents, I feel like they did not care about scaring the kids. My wife now is so like, oh, I think that's too intense for our little girl, and I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'll wait till 12 to show her, like just something like Nightmare Before Christmas even or something. But yeah, like us growing up, our parents are showing us things. I watched Alien when I was and Jaws when I was like kind of young. And yeah, the parents are just like, like it's a good movie. They can watch it. Why not? So yeah, that's kind of
Alien. Yeah. My parents really like they loved movies. So they also kind of like appreciated, I mean, Hitchcock movies are pretty amazing. And even like Aliens, just like, it is so scary, but it's such a great movie. It's so, it's like just doing everything. It looks insane. The performance is amazing. The monster is so scary. The whole world of it is really effective. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I remember seeing that also pretty young, but loved it. Loved it so much.
Yeah, those old classics, they're just great. And Darby O'Gill, like the practical effects that they did in there, like the special effects, it's so crazy. You can watch like hours-long documentaries on just the practical effects on there, and they're so like creative. It's just amazing.
I got to go back and watch this. I can't believe you know this movie. I thought it was like a really obscure, like it's an old, weird Disney movie, right?
It is, yeah. And I just bought the Blu-rays out of print, so I spent like $60 on a stinking Blu-ray. But I also have the VHS because I kind of like it. That's how I watched it, and so I kind of have that whole nostalgia thing. But yeah, it's just a fantastic movie. Yeah. It's
like a deck and a tube TV, or you got a projector.
No. So I have an old VCR, and then I have the whole like converter to HDMI thing. So yeah, that works out pretty well. But maybe I should show that to my daughter and my son and see. It'll give them a taste for horror movies
just
later on in their life.
Yeah, feel them out.
Well, I'll pivot. So you made this movie, Man Baby, in Bozeman. So why did you choose to film there? If were you living in Brooklyn at the time, and you still chose to film in Bozeman?
No, I lived in Bozeman at the time. But my daughter she was born right in the start of the pandemic. She was born in winter of 2020, and we were in New York. She was born here, but it was insane. So we moved that spring. We had been in Montana before. So our friends there were like, there's no cases, come back, and there's daycare. And so we had come back to Montana. And then we shot like that following, it was 2 winters later. And I mean, I want to make like all my movies in Montana. I don't know why. The first time I went out there, I grew up in Ohio, really. So I think there's something so exotic about the Mountain West, but at the same time, parts of Montana feel kind of Midwestern. So there's this weird, it's like totally foreign and also feels really comfortable. And I am kind of totally enamored of like Montana's culture and the people and the faces. So that's like been a long time dream of mine to make a film there. And they have this grant program now. So you can apply and the film office awards money. So we got, the movie got awarded money so I could kind of pay for the crew. We could pay these girls to rent their apartment and kick them out for a couple days. And
was there any other funding besides the grant?
Yeah, just some other, like private equity saved up money and tons of in-kind discounts and, friendly sweat equity.
Yeah. Yeah. So were there any moments during production that completely caught you off guard?
Well, I wouldn't really say caught me off guard, but putting the prosthetic on was pretty crazy. And like maybe more time consuming and involved than I thought it was going to be, because it was so strange to kind of put that piece of it together. And our makeup artist on the movie is this woman, Sierra Griffin, who was really stoked on the movie from like the very beginning of the idea and really excited about all these little things that she could, kind of like do or change, and how we would do them all as like in camera practical effects. I didn't want to do anything in post. I don't know how to do that. So I just wasn't even thinking about it. And she found this guy in Livingston, Montana, who makes like, he does prosthetic work, but like normally on a movie, they have him make like scar tissue or like a blown off finger or, like a wound of some kind. And then they can apply it on and paint it and make it look real. Mm-hmm. And he was like, make a little tiny penis. He was like, so kind of like, no one would ever ask me to do this. And just getting it actually like made and like that was going to be a real thing.
Yeah.
I think was so unexpected to me. Like I mean, I had written this thing, but I just didn't have any idea how we were going to make that a reality.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that kind of leads me into my next kind of round of questioning: nudity, right? So for those who haven't seen the film, you do see, a fully nude man who's intact, right, and who hasn't a baby penis yet, but eventually you do see a prosthetic for a man with a baby penis. So I have a couple questions about that. One is, how do you handle nudity on set? Like, I don't know if that actress was your wife, but how do you make her feel comfortable standing next to you and you're butt naked? And, everyone else on set, how do you get people kind of comfortable with that? What kind of conversations do you have?
Yeah, I don't want to, it was a little bit, I think it was a little bit before, like, I want to say, maybe I'm defending myself here, but a little bit before the like intimacy coordinator has become so, like standard as like just a part of the conversation around that. But it just was important to me in the storytelling that we saw him. And so I kind of like knew going into it that this was something we were going to do. It was pretty much the first thing we shot. I just said, let's do this up front and get it out of the way. And so we had like, everybody kind of knew what was going to happen that day, like well in advance. And we had talked about it with all of the crew. And I did go back a couple times, I think, to Kate. We could ask her to weigh in on it, but I did kind of go back and forth with her a little bit. I was like, you really do understand what I'm like how we're talking about the shot, it's going to be me standing right behind you. And anyways, we did talk about it. I also originally, I think in like the storyboard process with the woman who shot it is a woman named Haley Swain. And we did kind of a lot of storyboarding and talked a lot about like the framing and everything. But that shot, I storyboarded as like in silhouette. That's why we're kind of looking at this shower curtain that's got a window behind it. And so but it was like this very, very tight space where the camera could be in the hall and I had to cross it. And it was really hard to like look at the monitor. So I thought it was a silhouette shot and that you couldn't really see as much detail. And I, on another, like another movie where I'm working like as part of the crew, a closed set is kind of also like a standard thing where everybody knows to just be away if actors are naked. But as I said, because it was so friendly, yeah, I don't know. That it was that one shot and we did it up front and then, moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't too bad. So what made you think, it says, you said it was important to you for you to actually see him naked. Why was that important to you to actually show the nudity?
Well, I think, just to me in the storytelling, I think that that's like really the most visible change that we like really, really get to see in terms of what, like there were other versions of the script with like kind of different pieces of what we were going to see, but that kind of is what it settled on and what we were really shooting. And some of the other things that go on, like his hair falling out or his teeth, they were just kind of, I think, a little bit more of like an individual like step, the like actual change you could kind of like see in that moment. Whereas this change, I don't know, I feel like it's more effective that you have seen the before and the after.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was going to say, like, I just underlined, it's funnier. Like, it's just funnier to be like, you see the before and then it's like, that's the setup and here's the punchline. It's this little baby penis. So
yeah. I think also I think also to me, it kind of felt like, male nudity is just sort of weirdly more taboo. And we just kind of live in this culture where it's really normal that a female character is undressed at some point in a movie. And this movie, the movie is kind of a lot about this weird gendered piece of parenthood where the woman's physical, like her physical change of actually going through pregnancy is kind of, it's totally expected, but it's also kind of like, just like, we're going to kind of look away. We don't really understand very well what's happening. And then what's going on with a man, our participation in the whole having a baby is so hands off. I think that's fascinating. So,
yeah, I agree with you. It is fascinating. So what was your view on fatherhood when you first had children, and has it changed as they've gotten a little older?
I mean, I just was freaked out with a baby, like with a newborn baby. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I expected, but it was not, it wasn't a newborn. And for me, I think I had like a lot of shame that I didn't sort of like just immediately feel like, oh, this baby is amazing. And I just know what to do with it. And I like know how to make her happy. Or with a newborn, I think it felt a lot more like everything I did was wrong. And it didn't really matter, like if I was there or not. So that was really hard for me, and like a really shameful disappointment. And also it didn't help that in the like first 6 months of my daughter's life, like there was a global health crisis, and we were kind of like closed off from people and really isolated. And then we were out in Montana where we don't have any family. And because I think there was just so much insecurity I felt around being a parent with a newborn, because I just had no idea what I was doing. And now I like totally love it. And I feel like my daughter's 5 now. She's in kindergarten. She can like walk and talk and, do all this stuff. And I feel so much pride around, it's a very natural progression of someone growing up and learning to speak and take care of themselves. But it feels a lot more of like an exchange. And that to me is so rewarding.
100%. I had a girl first, and I have a little boy too now. But yeah, with my little girl, it was 8 months before I felt like there was like we could start to form like a relationship. And it was so different with mom and baby. Like they had something. She didn't need like a back and forth and like trying to talk and like watching things together or something like that. But yeah, I totally, for like the first 8 months, was like, this is like really hard. Like, and there was no relationship or anything. And then at 8 months, it's like she started to come online a little bit, and we could form that relationship, and it just it changed the whole thing. And it's just like, so obviously, like for me anyway, like the best part of life. I think it's just it's the best. That's what I think. So I can pivot now to a less heavy question. What do you think this will be kind of just like a softball. What do you think is more important, the camera and lenses or the color grade?
Ooh, whoa. I don't know really. We went and played at our premiere, and then it was just kind of like a long, very slow kind of festival run. And in the course of it, I was like back in Montana for a period of time. And Haley, the RDP, had said, like you really should think about doing a like real color grade on it, because I've met this guy who's like a junior colorist, and I think he would want to help with it, and he'll do a really great job. And so so we did a color grade. Like the first kind of pass of it was just like a really basic kind of me in Premiere without a monitor, trying to just make it work to screen. Mm-hmm. And the color grade is like kind of really simple. I feel like it's not like such a dramatic change from where it was, but it just looks to me so much better. And it was so cool to like have it come back just with that last kind of polish on it. So I feel like the other thing that Haley said about that working relationship was that for her as a DP, if you have like a colorist already kind of in your like network, then now in this digital workflow that we live in, they can like build the color space first, and you can like have that with you while you're shooting. So to me, they're kind of like, I think you can't really have one without the other. And to me, the ideal is where the color grade and the camera and the lens are all like in conversation together, and they're chosen or put together like for a specific, like with that outcome in mind.
Yeah. I think that's a great answer. Yeah. Yeah, you need both. You need good, you need at least a decent camera and some good lenses, but, and you need harmony with the color grade. I think that's great. If I could take one step back here, I did want to ask you this, and I probably moved on too quickly from the fatherhood conversation, but how has fatherhood, do you think, affected your filmmaking?
Well, the greatest thing about being a parent is that you're like storytelling all the time. And being a good storyteller is really, really beneficial. So like my survival skill of being able to kind of tell a story, I think is just like practicing for being a filmmaker like all the time, and considering how to keep like a child audience engaged, how to like lure them into a story, how to kind of like command their attention. I feel like all of those things directly translate to like working as a filmmaker. Also for me as an actor, spending time with a kid is amazing, because it's the same thing. It's like daily practice of just being able to kind of like let go and be really, really present. And that's a magic thing to get to just like do all the time, because I'm around a kid.
Yeah. So yeah, it positively affects your storytelling then, your filmmaking. Yeah, I guess it probably takes up a little more of your time, but we make it work anyway, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's that part of it also where you're like, for me also, it's really hard to think about, or it's gotten harder and harder to keep this like dream of working in the film industry alive, because I really love features. I want to work on like like a full length project like that. And it's just sometimes a really long time to be away from your kid and your family. And also like, even if I am, like I'm here in New York now while she's in school, but a film day is so long anyways, that just choosing that as your work environment is, it's just like a hard negotiation always, in terms of how you prioritize your time to be a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell myself, well, if I ever am working on like a giant feature film set, I will just homeschool my kids and bring them to set every day. And I'm sure that'll work out. I did want to talk a little bit about the Big Sky Film Grant.
Yeah.
So you guys got a grant for the short film through, and I think you mentioned a little bit before, the film, is it the Montana Film Commission that hands that out?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what was the process like? Was it just you send like a little essay to the film commission? What do you have to do?
They have an application. Their grant cycle kind of, it's an annual thing, but when exactly it happens kind of in the year shifts a little bit. They have an application. You submit a lot of material. It kind of goes from the creative, like you're submitting the project, a long line, the script, supporting materials in terms of like creative references or a pitch deck. But then you also are submitting to them so much kind of just practical information about like, how much money do you need? Where are you spending it? Why are you spending it there? Who are the local vendors? What is the kind of return to Montana? And then also like they want to, they're also assessing the like viability of the project. So they want to see that you have some strategies in place in terms of what are you going to do with the project once you shoot it? How are you going to get the edit done? Where's it going? What festivals are you like self-releasing it? Do you have a distributor? And that stuff, which I think especially for filmmakers who are making a short kind of with their friends, basically, like, which is essentially what I did. You aren't always thinking that full, like that far in advance about what you're going to do with the project, because just kind of getting through the shooting phase is an achievement enough. But it's an amazing thing about the application to just challenge yourself as a filmmaker to sit there and think about, like, well, is there a way for me to talk about this more professionally, more in a more like business related way? And I think it helps reinforce this idea that you have to think of yourself as a professional filmmaker. That's kind of like the first step, because no one else really is going to do that. There's not like a job necessarily waiting for you where somebody else is going to say, oh, these are the steps, and then you'll get your movie done.
Right. So what do you think helped Man Baby stand out in the grant process? Why do you think it got selected?
Honestly, I still kind of can't believe that they gave us some money. I thought that was just the coolest, must have been the coolest group of people that looked at this project and said, yeah. The feedback I got from the film office was that there were a lot of parents on their kind of like advisory committee, and the story resonated with them.
So it's probably a good idea. You think it sounds like a good exercise to apply to some of these grants.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone. The cool thing about the film grant in Montana also is that there's a resident category and non-resident. So anyone can apply, and you know, the hard part there is if you're an out-of-state filmmaker, you've got to figure out how to like get yourself and your project up to Montana, which can be an unforeseen expense. But it's so unique in the States to have funding like that for artists. And I feel like by applying, you're also kind of encouraging it to continue. Because if they, you know, because I feel like the film office loves that each year they're getting more and more applicants, and it makes the grant program seem just more effective. Mm. So yeah, I think anyone and everyone should apply.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the things you wanted to talk about was reshoots and planning on reshoots. So you said filmmakers should plan on reshoots as an expectation, not a last resort. What led you to that mindset?
I kind of started out in reality TV. Like, I went to film school, but then I came out to Montana and I got hired to work with a production company there that does a lot of unscripted. And at first for me, it was kind of like agonizing, because the production model in unscripted TV seemed so backwards to me. They're just out there shooting, and then all this footage comes in, and in post, they're like, somebody's watching everything and then writing a script out of what's there. And then they kind of stitch it together, maybe with VO or, B-roll and stuff like that. But that it also was very much a part of the post workflow, that they would put it together as best they could with what they had. And then you had to go out and reshoot stuff, or go pick up stuff, or go buy stock footage or whatever to kind of just put it together. Mm-hmm. And I think that for narrative filmmakers who work in this traditional scripted mode, that there's a lot of pressure on you at the beginning. You have to have a really good script. And if your script isn't good enough, like, you shouldn't be shooting it. You're just doomed. the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Which I do think there's a lot to be said about when you're a great writer and you've got an ability there to put the script together and have like a really strong plan going into it. But making a movie is also a lark. It's like a consistently impossible endeavor. And so, to me also, just very specifically, with a first-time filmmaker or a young filmmaker who's working on a short, you're kind of working with so little resources, right? Like you only have so much time, and you're begging people to get together and help you with favors, and it puts a additional stress on your like shoot time. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe when you kind of think about it as, well, we're going to go out this day or these 2 days with what we have scheduled and get the best that we can get out of those days. But it's okay that in a month we'll start editing and we'll realize we should go shoot something else. Yeah, like I went back and reshot a couple things, like almost a year later with Man Baby. And the other thing that was so cool about doing those reshoots was that once I had gone through and was putting the edit together, I was realizing like just how still the movie is. There's so many static frames and it's so quiet. And I was kind of like, it's boring.
I mean, it has a slow cinema quality to it, but yeah, it never came off as boring, I don't think. So that's good.
But, and there's another part of that, I think, which is also that a lot of film language that we look at where there is so much camera movement, it's expensive. It's a bigger team in terms of that whole camera and grip. It's a lot more time with actors kind of hitting marks in this kind of physical performance space. Mm-hmm. So it just, when we went back to reshoot, I was like, everything's gotta be moving. So like, it's the little shot of me driving in the truck while the truck is moving. That's a pickup we did later. Mm-hmm. And then the shot that spins upside down outside the building, that is a pickup also.
You just wanted to add just a little bit of movement back in there?
There was we didn't shoot the exterior of the house in the original photography. So, and the house that we shot in actually it didn't look that cool outside. Mm. So that's a totally different building in Bozeman that we just kind of stole a couple shots of. But it was kind of weird. It was like the whole movie is just taking place inside this house. You never see outside of it. And these people are like, what's going on? We needed just like a little bit of context, I think.
When you plan for reshoots, well, I guess reshoots, one of the big risks is that it's going to be difficult to get cast and crew back, like if they might not be available or something. So how do you kind of juggle that? And did you bump into any issues with that?
Yeah, I mean, we did for sure. It was just me flying back out to Montana and like, Haley being like, oh, I can get my hands on this camera. It was so ramshackle. But I think that in the movie, it's really hard to pick out what is from 2022 and what's from, almost a year later. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really matter. Also the magic of the color grade is that he does such an amazing job of making all of that footage feel really seamless. And I think that part of that also is a reminder that, if you're putting a short together that really can only be done in the 2 days that you're going to shoot it, maybe there's something in that production model that's a little bit out of your reach. And maybe there's a way to think about kind of just like grounding it a little bit more so that it is something that you could, it's not an actor that you have to fly from the UK. It's like somebody that that would be potentially available in a month for you to get back in front of the camera if you needed to.
Yeah. Something I did, I shot like a practice feature film. And one of the big important things was I wanted to use talent just from around town so that, if I needed reshoots, I didn't have to fly someone in, or just like you were saying. It didn't work out great because you still have things like people moved right, like after I cast them, they ended up moving an hour and a half away. But actually, that guy, shout out to Levi, he just drove up like whenever I needed him, and he was really cool about it. So also that's something, I guess, work with really cool people who just want to show up to support the movie. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
My next question, what kind of stories do you think you're most drawn to telling, and how do you think Man Baby kind of fit into that pattern?
Well, I'm definitely interested in stories that are about men and women, and like what's this perceived difference versus the actual kind of unbelievable commonality that we have. And I think, to me, it's just so, it's very funny. It's like very kind of heartwarming to see the way that we are so similar and yet are always kind of stumbling to totally be in sync with each other. As any kind of people, any kind of relationship has that quality. It doesn't necessarily even have to be between men and women. I also am definitely drawn to smaller, subtle, kind of like quiet, eerie, funny, that like tone that really I wouldn't ever say I knew how to describe, but to me kind of like emerged in the process of making this short. Mm-hmm. is kind of like a texture that can be applied to a lot of different like plotting or a lot of different kind of stories and characters, but for me would be a big part of my voice as a filmmaker or storyteller.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I could see that in your film. Certainly there seems to be kind of a discussion about men and women and relationships. What do you think you're most proud of with your film, with Man Baby?
I mean, I would say that it's the tone. It's this like, it's like it's found its voice, just the tiniest little first peep of kind of me as an artist. I think we see it start to like take shape and have an intentionality. There's like a couple other short films that I've made between film school and Man Baby. And I think there's a little bit of it in there, but this is the strongest example. This short also is like the most professional piece of work that I've ever made in terms of the camera that we worked with, the production value, the team that I had put together, the sound guy that I worked with in the mix, who's this amazing musician in Seattle. Mm. And the color grade, I think, also just feels so pro. Mm-hmm. That I'm proud of. And also the festival run, it has been consistently unexpected, but like, to me, it's really amazing that the movie has found audiences in different places. Like, we've played in the UK 3 times, and we're just now playing in Australia. We played in India.
Cool.
Played at a festival in India. That is, I don't know necessarily that I'm so proud of that, but I'm really in awe of that sensation of like my work being kind of seen around is very cool.
I think that's fantastic. Do you think, I could ask a couple kind of generic questions, but I'm always curious. Do you think film festivals are worth it at this point? Do you see any sort of return, or is it just kind of satisfying for the soul?
I don't know. I think maybe the jury is yet to be seen really what it feels to me right now. It feels a little bit like a long game, because as much as there's this this idea that, oh, if you get into, you just got to make one movie and then go to the big festival and then boom, Hollywood, like forever, you're just set. And I think that is really not true. And I do think that the biggest feeling I've kind of had over the long run of the festival circuit on this short is like, oh, geez, I should be submitting again. Like I should have something else to submit right away, because the times when I'm able to go to the film screening and go to the festival, it's so significant to have that person-to-person relationship with a programmer or a festival or another filmmaker. Those people that I've met on the circuit that now kind of are a colleague, but it's just because we saw each other's work and said hello. The value of that network, I think, is really hard to determine, especially in an immediate way, right? Because like I have had I love the festival run, but it's not like I've set up a meeting and gone to somebody's office and been offered like a job or anything. Nothing like that has come out of it. But I don't know that I can totally say I believe that that when that does happen, it won't be partly because of some of the network that I have now. I don't know. This is haunting. This will haunt me.
Well, I bring it up every time I have this discussion. I complain about how much I spend on film festivals submitting my feature film, and then I'm like, I don't know if that was the right move. I feel like right now I kind of land on definitely submit to festivals around where you made it, like regional festivals, so that the cast and crew have a place to screen it or watch it. And then maybe submit to the big ones. Do you think you should submit to everything in between, or where are you going to submit maybe your next film? Do you think, are you going to stick to regional ones and the big ones, or do you think you're going to cast kind of a wide net?
I think that we should all band together as independent filmmakers and not submit to the big festivals, and we should make them come and find us. Because I do think that there's thousands, maybe millions of us spending a significant amount of money that goes to festivals who receive so many submissions that they are absolutely not watching all of the submissions.
Right.
So, I think also it's kind of important to say that I don't really know that there is a festival strategy. I thought that I thought that I should be figuring something out to make sure that this short like played at the right place. But there's really so little control. I mean, I think at a different tier in terms of filmmakers that have producers and sales agents or are working with like a known quantity in terms of their cast, they're in a different playing field. And however they are developing a strategy around what to do with a festival, I think is just so different from what a really independent, like single filmmaker is doing, looking at Film Freeway. I don't know. I mean, I think it's absolutely a waste of money. But at the same time, some of my experiences going with the movie. And, because the other thing that's crazy about it is you spend the money to submit. And then if you do get in, I had to fly to the UK and get an Airbnb and, but it was also the most amazing investment in myself, as a filmmaker. Just the practice of actually spending that money there on me doing that, I think was so valuable to me, just to be yeah, dude, this is what you want to do. And it's why you're doing it. To go and make the movie and then just balk at the cost of kind of promoting it and continuing on with it. That's an amazing disappointment. And you're really cutting yourself short. It's also it's insane. You have to make the film and then do the submitting, get all this rejection, and talk yourself into making another movie. Just do it again, which is the definition of insanity, right? Doing the exact same thing and expecting a different outcome. But it's also it's the system that we have access to. I think that we have the internet as an insane resource. Trying to figure out ways to pull audience to your work by putting it online, I think, is also kind of a cool exercise in doing something really independent. And especially with social media, I feel like people have access to building an audience relatively quickly in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I mean, I guess if we're going to come back to settling on some kind of strategy, definitely there's so many festivals now in the States, especially, submitting around where you actually live so that you don't have to buy a plane ticket if you got in. Totally smart move. And it's a great way for you to be able to show the work to everybody that helped you make it, which feels great. And then I think also just kind of, there's an almost endless amount of research to do to try and figure out, what did that festival's program before? Who, am I a good fit? Is this movie a good fit? I don't know. You gotta just go do it. It is such a thankless part of the job, but
yeah. I think there's something to that too, where you were talking about your experience in the UK, where it's you're spending a lot of money and who knows if it's going to be your big break or whatever, but it's there's something just that you can enjoy going to those festivals too. Like you were saying, it's very fulfilling to this is what I wanted. I wanted my film at a festival and I wanted to meet new people and maybe experience new cultures and stuff. So there's something to be said there, but I can see there's also something to being a little strategic. So yeah, I go back and forth on casting a wide net also, or just kind of limiting who I'm going to submit to. So we'll see. Yeah, I go back and forth. So I have a few wrap up questions. So how do you personally define success for a short film? This is kind of going into what we were talking about, but how would you define success for your short film?
I mean, my standard is pretty low. I feel like if you shot it all, that's a success. Because to me, in my opinion, it is so kind of psychological. I have such a hard time talking myself into committing to be an artist every day. I feel so much pressure to just walk away from it and go get a job at a bank and be a happier, more successful, American. But so just the incremental achievement of getting it written, asking people to help you do it, getting it shot, that's enough of an achievement. then if you actually can get through the whole edit
Right.
and get yourself into a place where you're objectively saying, I think this is the strongest version of this story that I can make.
Mm-hmm.
That's another huge achievement. And then finding an audience for it, I think, is also like the final piece of it. That's really elusive. But finding the audience is how you like, it's like how the energy like echoes back to you. If you're like getting the sound all the way out, the story is coming out of you all the way, that's step one. But being able to hear then the way that it like lands is, I think, to me, the success in that is that's like a part of how you grow as an artist. You need to a little bit feel that return of energy. So then you're able to say like, oh, my skill set isn't necessarily in making people scared. I love the feeling. And I have a lot of admiration for filmmakers who do it so well. It's not something I don't think I quite have that talent, or I haven't figured out how it's done. But it helps me see more clearly what some of my strengths are in terms of this unique tone, this ability to bring an audience to a place of discomfort, but they still feel engaged and excited. And generally also for me with the short, so much of the audience reaction has been, we want to know more about the story. Like, we want to see more. That's also feels like a win.
That is a win.
Success.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm a big fan of a low bar. I think for me, like I'll consider it a success if I can just write the story. If I can like get a story down like as a script, and I'm like, that's kind of cool, and I'm happy with the story. I'm like, I'm a successful writer at that point, and that's like the most important part to me. But there are those extra kind of like, it would be nice type of things where it would be nice to probably actually film this and maybe actually like get an audience to enjoy what I was going for. But yeah, I guess I have an even lower bar. It's like, I'm happy just writing the story sometimes, which is probably why,
you gotta be nice.
Yeah.
You gotta be nice to yourself as a filmmaker. It's hard. It's tough. So anything you can do to, I think, kind of say, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally agree. So last question, what are you working on now? And yeah, I guess I'll ask you afterward where people can reach out to you if they need to. But yeah, what are you working on now?
Now I'm trying to stay really focused on expanding the story into a feature. So we have a script, and the biggest obstacle, I think, kind of right now is trying to figure out how to finance it. Part of that is this, I think, this kind of idea I had that, like the short will just go to the festival world and then money will come out of that, which has not happened for me either. And it's also kind of an interesting debate of like, well, how cheaply could I make a feature? Versus like, who can I convince? Or how am I going to convince somebody that that this is a movie? You know, like, am I going to convince someone that this feature is going to make money? I don't know. That's really hard for me. That seems like a lie. But I do kind of, I need money to make the movie. I don't want to, I like kind of making it a professional environment. I like being able to pay the crew and turn it into a job and let it be a project that's about artists like working together. So it's kind of like I don't know what I'm working on right now. Like I'm gonna revise a draft of the script, submit again into the grant cycle in Montana. And then the other plan is to go to the film market in Berlin in February and try and raise money there.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people are going to try to get their films funded. And I tell myself next time I'm doing a feature, I'm going to just try to hit up 10. I'm trying to get 10 dentists to give me $10,000 each. All I need is 10 dentists, and then I can make another feature. So maybe that's going to be my tactic. Maybe next time. I think that's how they did Evil Dead and the Coen Brothers' first movie. I think, at least partially. I think they just went out and started hitting up dentists.
Dental money. Is that where to go?
Well, and I've always found this funny with dentists. They seem to like want to support the arts. Like I was talking to a buddy the other day and he's like, yeah, this dentist just like bought out the movie theater and for this indie film. And so everyone could just see it for free. And I'm like, dentists, for some reason, they love to support the arts. And they're always like, it seemed like they always want to be photographers, and they're always like photographers, or that's common. So there's some overlap with dentists. I haven't figured out what it is, but I'm going to try to hit up some dentists. That's my master plan for my next feature film. So
I'm going to try this out. Yes, very much. Maybe you should cut this. I think maybe you're like revealing an amazing secret.
Yeah, maybe I should. I'll cut it. Yeah, that sounds good. So where can people reach out to you if they have any questions about projects you're working on or anything? Do you have any socials where you're active?
Yeah, I mean, the short has Man Baby Short Film is on Instagram. Great way to get in touch.
All right.
Also a great way to look at all our little promo reels, and happy to send a link. And also, I am kind of trying to figure out when will the festival like stuff really end, and then we can just put it online with an X rating and see what new audience there is for it there.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let me know, because I do think for our film festival, the Spark of Madness Film Festival, we are going to start kind of like a campaign where we repost, if people they finish their festival circuit and they post it on their personal channels, we'll like repost their shorts on our channel too. So we're going to have like like that channel short of the week or whatever on YouTube. Yeah. We're going to try to create that for our festival too. So if you guys want, let us know. And once that gets up and running and gets a bit of a following, maybe we can repost your film if you guys want. But anyways, just a heads up to the listeners that we got that in the works. So Aaron Murtagh, thank you so much for coming on the show. And
thank you,
people
John.
of course, and people can reach out if they need to at Man Baby Short Film on Instagram. Again, thank you very much for coming on. I had a good time.
Same. Great to catch up.
All right, have a good one.
See ya.